All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. I am here with an educator, composer, performer for the first installment of Trading Eights. He's got a record that released in 2017, I believe in May, called Premiere. He's got a lot of great situations going on. Immediately, he's the current director of jazz studies at the University of Texas at San Antonio. And I'm happy to say he's been a friend of mine now since I moved here in '09. Dr. Adrian Ruiz.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Appreciate you taking the time. So if you hear some noise in the background, we are at the 2019, that sounds crazy already, 2019 TMEA convention here in San Antonio. And it's apropos because this is your area.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm based here in San Antonio.
And now you're raised here essentially?
Yeah, born and raised.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool, right on. Well, we basically have a format. We're going to ask about 8 questions and have him answer. He has no idea what's coming at him, so we're going to start right now. So, can you recall what the catalyst moment was that brought you to the decision to pursue music as a career?
Oh, I can remember as far back as being in 4th grade. In the neighborhood that I grew up in, there were actually a few trumpet players that were a little bit older than me. A friend of mine that was in 6th grade at the time, and his older cousin, who I believe was a senior in high school. So I would hear them practicing. They were within earshot of where I lived. So I was like, man, what is that sound? And I was fascinated with the trumpet from the get-go.
Right.
Being 10 years old and couldn't wait to get into middle school, and then having the decision to make, it was pretty evident. The band director had given out a card and he gave all of us 3 choices, and I put trumpet, trumpet, and trumpet.
Right.
So as a result, a couple of the neighbors that lived across the street from me, some really good friends of mine were a couple of years younger than I was, and we had 3 trumpet players on one street. So yeah,
That's
it was
awesome.
It was really cool. So yeah, that decision was spurred on pretty early on.
Cool. Oh, that's good. I'm laughing because I had a similar situation, but literally the guy that lived next door to me was also a drum set
Oh,
guy.
man.
So like
How about
my
that?
parents and his parents and the block hated us.
Oh.
We just made noise all day. It's a little easier for a trumpet, but that's
Right.
great. I love that you knew early on. So there was never really any deviation or any other, I think I want to do this. It was
No,
like,
it was, it just, the development of a kid, right? It's like, all right, well, when can they make a conscious decision? But
Truth.
I kind of felt like, I think this is really what I want to do.
Awesome.
And then by the time I was in 6th grade, I was like, all right, well, I'm really sold. I think I'm going to do this for like a really long time. In what capacity, I couldn't decide, but I knew that I wanted to play music. And I knew that the trumpet would, just resonate with me that much that I felt that I would do something long term.
Cool.
From an early age.
Was there music in your family? Like,
Well,
father, family?
on my grandmother's side, my mom's side of the family, my grandmother had a brother, so I had a great uncle who was an accordionist, and he also played guitar.
Okay.
So, of course, being from the south side of San Antonio and being a Hispanic family.
Yep.
I grew up listening to a lot of the conjunto stuff, and that's what my great uncle did. So I had a lot of musical memories very early on, even before the fascination with the trumpet began. So I guess, just listen to the radio, KADA, Radio Jalapeno here in San Antonio. There was always music going on in some way, shape, or form, even though my mom and my grandmother weren't musically inclined, music was always around. And then that kind of led to the whole trumpet situation. So.
I like hearing there was that influence at a very young age. That's fantastic. Right. Okay. So, shifting gears a little bit further in your career, then, what would you feel are the most important qualities in a sideman? Now, to find a sideman, it's basically the individuals that Adrian might hire to perform his pieces, or if he was asked to hire musicians to basically play some music with him. So what do you think are the qualities you're looking for the most?
Well, these are some fundamental things, but I think first and foremost, the attitude, the vibe, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to find somebody that you think is a like-minded warrior in terms of what kind of music you're going to present. Regardless of genre, but how you're going to present the music, okay? They got to be on time, You know, that's the other thing.
In every sense of the word.
Right, yeah. I mean, you know, punctuality is really an important thing. So the other thing is, you know, I mean, I ask the guys to, you know, just have the spirit of collegiality, if you will, this open-mindedness. I mean, I'm very fortunate with a lot of the guys that I've hired in my own band. A lot of them thrive on the rehearsal. That's important too. You know, you want to have a polished product when you get out there, and obviously you gain a lot of experience on the bandstand, but you know, you can't always be playing the same tunes year after year after year. So when you put new stuff together, you got to have guys that are willing to put in that time to conceptually, you know, bring these things to life. So I mean, again, I would say punctuality. I would say the vibe. You know, are good people to hang with and stuff like that.
We're spending a lot of intense time together.
Yeah, because I know you've definitely been fortunate to be in a situation where a lot of the people that you frequently perform with, you're good friends, and you know the process of making music becomes that much more fun and fulfilling when you have people that you can vibe with in a good way.
Okay. There's a specific statement that's resonated here with me, where you're saying you want people to be prepared, obviously, for the show, and that was Tommy Igo's got a quote. He says, "Don't practice on stage."
Right.
Which I think that makes
Sure.
sense. Cool. Okay. So what are you listening to right now, and how? And when I say how, are you listening to a CD, an 8-track, a record, streaming?
Right. Well, a lot of it lately, just because of not having the physical access to like a CD player and stuff like that, a lot of the music that I've been dealing with has been like via Apple Music and stuff like that. But man, I'll tell you one thing that I've been involved in lately. It isn't really music per se, but man, there's this series that this piano player by the name of Ben Sidran put out called Talking Jazz. So yeah, so what it basically is a whole slew of interviews that he did with a lot of the artists that were really prominent in the 1980s. So people like Branford Marsalis, people like Art Blakey, people like Jackie McLean, Marcus Miller, whoever, Miles Davis, whoever was really prominent on the jazz scene during those times. He asked, you know, different questions that deal with different historical perspectives in their career, you know, their influences. Like Miles Davis had talked about, you know, his time with Charlie Parker. Dizzy Gillespie talked about being an innovative figure during the bebop era. So that has kind of spurred me to go back to listen to a lot of the great classics.
Yeah, for sure.
But being that I got a big show coming up paying tribute to the Blue Note era on the music side.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, I've been visiting a lot of those wonderful classics, those timeless classics, I'd say. So a lot of Kenny Dorham, that's been on my mind lately. A lot of Joe Henderson, a lot of Horace Silver, a lot of McCoy Tyner, Wayne Shorter. So that's been on the wavelength lately.
That's great.
Taking that step to prepare for this performance. You know, these interviews and all these Blue Note classics.
That's great.
On the wavelength.
And if you hear those names and you're not familiar with those names, as a young listener or even just a casual listener, all of those names are going to lead you to treasures for your listening pleasure and just becoming more versed in the language that we're talking about, which is predominantly jazz. Okay, let's see. Over the last, let's say, year and a half, what's been the most significant development in your musical growth?
Wow. That's a pretty loaded question. There's all sorts of different things, because I'm an educator, as you just mentioned earlier. So having the opportunity to be put in situations where I've taught classes that I've never taught before, that gives you an opportunity to foster growth maybe a lot quicker than one might think. You know, like the young lion, Wynton Marsalis, back in the 80s, how maybe, you know, a lot of people felt that he got kind of plunged into the scene before he was ready. That's sort of the way that I felt, you know, concerning like teaching a jazz composition class. I mean, I'm a composer, but I've never really been on the other side to try to teach students how to write in that style. So, you know, being in that situation, teaching a jazz theory class, yes, you know, we're jazz musicians, and this is something that we've been doing for a while, but being on the other side and trying to help students foster that kind of creativity. So that's been a major development.
You feel like that, teaching like that, has made your personal process a little more concise?
I think so. I mean, it certainly brings more of an awareness to what you're doing, and maybe not taking certain things for granted that maybe I might have been taking for granted. in the process. You know, it's like, all right, well, you're in a position to where you're holding students accountable for certain material. So it's like, all right, well, how are you going to hold yourself accountable?
Absolutely.
And I think that makes for not so much overthinking a process, but maybe being a little bit more careful in terms of how the creative process goes. But then also on the other side of the coin, it's like, well, you instill a certain sense of freedom with your students. That's kind of a reminder to keep that sense instilled in yourself.
Right.
Well, you don't have to follow the rules per se. You know, just whatever it is you hear, let the ear be the final arbitrator. So certain things have come to light.
I like that.
As far as that goes.
Well, we all started out, something was just cool about picking up a horn and making noise. And you didn't have any rules in that moment. Nobody
Right.
told you this was right or this was wrong.
Right.
So, that's great. I like that. That's good. Okay, so we're going to reach out into some off the cuff, just when it can come to your brain. Just let me know. Okay, so it's going to be tough.
All right.
What is your favorite inspirational jazz album?
Man, I would say Kind of Blue by Miles Davis.
Which I was listening to yesterday. It's great. That's always going to happen. Least favorite musical genre?
Probably, my wife's probably going to kill me for saying this, but probably country western.
Okay, alrighty. Old country and new country, or do you not differentiate?
Probably new country.
Okay.
I mean,
Just
there's
curious.
those timeless old classics, man, you know, that still, those resonate.
Absolutely.
So,
I officially don't know what question I'm on, so I'm just going to keep on asking. What is it about a performance that excites you the most? Like when you're on stage, like on Sunday, I know you've worked with those cats a lot, but like, what is that thing? It's like, oh, that makes you, that's it.
being in a situation where you're actually witnessing the group effort, the group thing, when when everybody reaches that zone of here it is, and you get that obviously by playing with people for a long time.
Yes.
But I can't explain it other than also having the opportunity to step back. I mean, everybody's got a chance to shine, but after I have my chance to do my thing, to tell my story, just stepping back and being in a position where I feel a lot of times that I got the best spot in the entire venue, just witnessing, like, say, what a Daniel DeFore can do on the drums, what a Colin Shook can do on the piano,
Right.
what a Gil Delbosque can do on his sax, and what a Sam Pankey can do on his bass. And then the conversation that takes place, the responses, the proactive response, the reactive kind of situation, but just that conversation that's happening in the moment, and then the gratification knowing that when it happens again, it'll never be the same way. That's jazz. That's a living, breathing thing, and getting a chance to ride that high, better than any other, means of. You get the point,
Yeah,
better than
absolutely.
any other substance, that people think they can provide that. It's just this natural, organic thing. That's a beautiful thing.
That's great. Regardless of whatever the structure is, or whether you're going to play that tune for the 25th time, it's always special.
Right.
It's never the same way. It's
There's always a detour that somebody takes, always a different directional thing. And if somebody picks up on that, all right, we're going this way, let's go.
Right on. Dig. Okay, so on that, what is it about a performance that can bring you down the most?
Well, I think kind of going back to what we're talking about in terms of preparation, if I think it's pretty evident that even with a layperson that's out there, they know good music, they know bad music. So if the presentation is not, and I don't even want to use the adjective type, but if it's not presented in a manner where there was some homework that was done, then that becomes pretty evident that can be a little bit of a downer.
Yeah.
A lot of situations, a lot of situations like that happen with, maybe, and I don't want to classify it this way, but maybe with students that maybe might not be true professionals, at least not yet,
Right.
more amateur, or semi-professional, something like that, where there's still maybe a little bit more that needs to be done in terms of listening, maybe a little bit more that needs to be done in how to be a sideman, or even how to be a band leader, or stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Like a band leader might have a lot of experience as a sideman, but he doesn't know how to rehearse a group, or they're not all listening to the same things together. They just don't have enough experience. Just a lack of preparation is a thing that. And it's not so much, I guess, maybe that it brings me down. It's just that, all right, well, what is it? What are these factors that make them maybe unaware in terms of the preparation? So
that inhibits your ability to get to that point where you're in the zone and
right.
everybody's dialoguing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the biggest thing, obviously, is that I tell a lot of the students that I can pontificate all I want here. I can ride any soapbox in front of you, but it's not going to mean anything unless you actually listen to the ultimate teachers, which are the recordings.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. Okay. What is the best part of playing your primary instrument?
Man, well, being in the front line and, maybe selfishly, I mean, trumpet is it carries a melody, just like a flute in a concert band or a small chamber group, but it's a soprano instrument. So I think the best part for me is just knowing, in a small group situation that is, knowing that I'm going to be the melody instrument a lot of times. Unless I write something that, maybe might feature a soprano sax above me, but otherwise.
A very prominent voice.
Yeah, right. Being the front line and, just that's going to be the one thing that a lot of people are going to really lean in and listen to first and foremost. I mean, melody is important. So that's the draw.
Okay, cool. What instruments would you play other than your current? Like, and I know you got some piano background and all that stuff, but like, what is an instrument you've never really spent any time on? You're like, might be something I would like to try.
The drums. I mean, I'm in a position where, if I was trying to get a 6th grade or a 7th grader, and introduce them to the jazz band in a middle school situation, I could give the bare basics, but, just like a lot of authorities have said that if you want to really delve inside the rhythm and be a better rhythmic, have a better rhythmic approach when you're improvising, you got to learn how to play the drums. Chick Corea is a great drummer. Michael Brecker, God bless his soul, was a great drummer, and I witnessed that. I saw him at the Montreux Jazz Festival.
You saw Brecker play drums?
Yeah.
Oh man.
No, I'm sorry. The North Sea Jazz Festival.
Wow.
Ralph Peterson was his drummer.
Oh yeah.
And then Ralph is a wonderful trumpet player, so Ralph picked up the trumpet, and Michael Brecker jumped on the drums at the North Sea Jazz Festival. So, case in point, just the whole rhythmic situation. If anybody wants to be better at that, you got to be able to hop on the drums, and maybe I can get in a lesson with you sometime or something, just to get better at that. Yeah, with drums, certainly.
Great illustration of that. Towards the end of Chick Corea's 3 Quartets album.
Yes.
That's Chick on drums and Michael Brecker, and they're playing Confirmation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not fair, because he sounds amazing.
Right. Yeah.
Granted, he's probably assimilated by osmosis all these fantastic drummers that he's worked with, but it's great. It's fantastic. Right. Awesome. Okay. This is a little too Arthur Lipton, isn't that his name? But other than your own, what profession do you think you'd like to attend?
Probably history. I'm
As in, like, educator?
Yes, right.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and maybe it's still a little too close to home concerning the fact that I'm a music educator.
Sure, but
I've always been fascinated with U.S. history.
Okay.
And maybe even in a component where I would be doing some research, like to write a book or to do some sort of presentation on a certain topic. But man, U.S. history, presidential history. Is always just been something that I've been fascinated with. Yeah.
Remind me to tell you Doug Lawrence's story about Nixon.
Oh, okay.
Of
course, yeah.
Okay, so Adrian, Dr. Ruiz, has a show on Sunday at Parker Jazz Club in downtown Austin, Texas. 4th in Colorado. I believe the show starts at 5.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So, if you have not been out to the club, this is going to be a great opportunity to go and catch Adrian play. And he's got a great band. Give me your lineup again, please.
Okay, so we have Gil Del Bosque on tenor saxophone. We have Damian Garcia on the piano that evening. Sam Pankey will play acoustic bass. Daniel Dufour will be playing drums.
Fantastic. And this is going to be a Blue Note tribute.
Right. That's correct.
Fantastic. So, is there anything else that you feel like right now is pretty important going on that you'd like to share, or anything that's going on that you just want to draw some attention to?
Yeah, sure. I'm in the process of writing some more material, but it's my hope that hopefully by the latter part of this year or the early part of 2020 to put on a live record game. And Chris Kimura has already given the blessing to do that at Parker. So it'll be a situation where it'll be live Harbor Jazz Club.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. So we've actually got a couple of new things in rotation that I've written, and a couple of new things that Gil Del Bosque has written. And hopefully we can get some special guests.
Are some of those blowing on Sunday?
No, actually, again, Sunday is going to be just dedicated to the Blue Note era. So just, I guess, a little bit about that, if I could interject.
Please.
So I'm really excited to put this show on because as of February 6th of this year, that's the official 80th anniversary of the Blue Note record label. Mead Lutz Lewis and Albert Hammond had released the collaborative piano release back in February of 1939. That's the whole thing that kicked off the label. So, and it's still, you know, it's been through many iterations, you know, as overseen by certain larger record labels, but, you know, it's produced people like, you know, after all the greats of the 1950s and 60s, it's produced people like Nora Jones. You know, you got the wonderful vocalist Gregory Porter, Robert Glasper. So the label's still going strong, but we're going to pay tribute to what I consider to be the heyday of the label, music of the 1950s and 1960s. And so I wanted to do this to kind of tie in with the 80th anniversary of the label. Since it has been putting out the finest in jazz since 1939. And also I wanted to tie this in with the fact that I wanted to do it this month because this is, after all, Black History Month. And a lot of the music that we're going to concentrate on Sunday is by Black composers. So people like Laura Silver, people like Kenny Dorham, like Joe Henderson. So really excited to do this, and I don't know if this has ever been thought out in this area for a while. I know it was something that was very passionate for me when I was a grad student over at UT. That was my first recital project, a tribute to the Blue Note era. So since then, I've adapted at least maybe about 15 or 20 other tunes. So we easily have about 3 hours worth of material that we could do on any given night if necessary. But I'm really excited to do that this Sunday.
Oh, that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. That's great. Well, man, thank you for taking the time. I hope that at some point we can meet again, do this again down the road, and see what else is you got cooking on the stove. And man, thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Hope we get a chance to share the stage very soon.
I hope so, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, bud.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Adrian Ruiz.
Thanks, man. This is really cool.